program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is songwriter and author Greig Watts. Greig, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you on here.
Yeah, you got it. Before we get into the book and everything that you're doing now, I just want to give you the floor here for a few minutes and let us give you a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, okay. So I'm from the UK, and I guess I grew up listening to music in the 80s, surrounded by music. My parents had a youth group. I had older cousins, just music in the house everywhere. And I think really my destiny was to become a songwriter. I didn't want to do anything else. I just sat down, tried to learn instruments, did learn them a little bit, but by the time I was playing a few keyboard lines from Axel F or Howard Jones or things like that, I was starting to write my own songs. And I guess I was just passionate about that. I remember my teachers telling me that I needed, what was my ambition, what was my dream, and it would be being a songwriter and being in the music business. And they would sort of say, no, you need to get a real job. And I carried on. I remember I'm saying, no, I'm going to be a songwriter and run my own business. And they were several times said, no. And I kind of was already writing songs, and I was already selling records in the playground. So I think from then on, I just had this determination that I was going to make it as a songwriter in the music business, in the pop world. I was a singer every now and then in the bands that I put together to sell the songs. But really, I became that person behind the scenes, writing the songs, and became very successful in places like Japan, Belgium, places where I'd never have imagined as a teenager wanting to be number one in the world. I did achieve those goals, but through sort of Japanese artists. And then I moved into publishing and looking after other writers. And I think I learned my biggest skill set about 40. In my 40s, I realized I was a developer. And I was coaching football teams, and I was coaching writers. And I was even remember back to the writing sessions, I actually was coaching people within the writing. I was helping other people write. So that's what I've become now. More into the mentorship, more into the publishing. I sell other people's songs. I develop other writers. And I've just finished my first book, Keeping the Dream Alive, which is basically that. Tells you the story of my dreams and how I overcame lots and lots of setbacks and rejection. And I want to share that with others about how you can overcome them too, because it's a long journey. There's lots of setbacks along the way. But actually, if you keep on dreaming and get the right people around you, you can make it.
And it's frustrating, isn't it, that in every other profession that you wanted to do, it would be just as hard to succeed. Now, maybe there's easier paths to walk in different professions, but I feel like music and maybe, film or something along those lines in the arts that our elders encourage us to get a real job. And
yes.
It takes that perseverance, right? To just say, no, this is a real job. And, for myself, I work in media exclusively, developing these podcasts and more, but I'm a songwriter myself. And because of that mentality that was always pushed on me, like, you're going to have something else in addition to the music. Maybe I never went after it in the way that I would have or should have. It was always, well, you're going to have to do something, and then maybe you could play music. Where if we were encouraged from an early age to say, okay, if you're going to do music, these are the things that you have to do, and this dream is completely attainable. You just need the right roadmap. And the fact that teachers don't have that roadmap, they just kind of poo-poo it right from the get-go and say, no, you're going to have to take a different path, and your music is just a far-off dream that will never happen. And I think that's so unfortunate.
Yeah, agreed. Lots of people, lots of songwriters I meet, have been told, what's your real, I do songwriting, what's your real job? And as I said, back at school, my music teacher said Greig drifts through class not being very interested, which is completely the opposite of what I was like. I was loving songs, I was loving pop music, but of course in music lessons it was a lot about theory, it was a lot about classical, and it just didn't engage me. So it took another music teacher, when I stopped doing music, basically they had a recording studio, and I said, can I come in and use your recording studio? And you saw him light up. At last, someone wants to use the recording as a, something to do with pop. And actually, that's when the dreams, again, his dream hit mine, and we were actually able to make some recordings together. You just have to have the right people on your path as well, I think.
Well, and that's what I love about what you're doing now. And I think in some ways you've always done it. Once you achieve a status where you can help others, right? And status not being necessarily a name or a title, but just experience. You reach a certain experience level and you know that you can help people that don't have that same experience, no matter where they're at on their journey, right? Someone could be a very accomplished songwriter and have hits. I don't know if people have hits anymore these days, but they could be a very accomplished songwriter, but still you could impart some wisdom to them. And I think that's what's wonderful about the music business. And I love your passion for that. We here at the Scene Projects, we have what we call the Academy. So in the exact same vein that we are not any of us necessarily the foremost expert in any one field, but we have wisdom and tools and experience to share with others that may be coming from a different place, or maybe just starting their careers or restarting their careers. And if you were in the music business 30 years ago and trying to come back now, well, you need a whole different skill set than you did back then in the marketing and production and everything in that. But songwriting, I think for the most part has remained the same, although we have tools like AI with Suno and many others that are changing that.
Yeah, I got the end of that. So Suno's changing things, definitely. We're starting to embrace it ourselves, not so much in the songwriting side, more in the developing of the production and using it as a tool in the same way as we would a synthesizer, or Splice. Actually, it can bounce ideas off it. I think the same as we do with ChatGPT. You bounce ideas back and forth off it, and actually you can create music. I've used something called Master Writer for many, many years as a lyricist. You'd be stuck on one line, put it in rhyming dictionary, and up comes a line, and you think, oh, that's quite good. I'll put that. So it's just using the tools around us, I think. Just have to be careful about it as well. We're hot on the agenda. We've within my academy, within my mentorship, we have a EU lawyer who works on AI. So she's given us a talk tonight. So just to tell us about the law behind it. So because that's the difficult bit. If I write a song with you, and you're in the States and I'm in the UK, and someone else is in Spain, for instance, there's 3 different laws about the copyright. So it could be interesting. So.
Yeah, no doubt. International copyright law. And because of the internet, you didn't necessarily have that in decades past, because even if the songs were written by different people from different places, they were probably written in one place or the other, not from, working remotely. And gosh, you just got to love the internet for the fact that we have the opportunity to communicate with each other, to share ideas, to produce these music. I mean, what Suno can do now with an idea and to be able to spit out, demo versions. I mean, I know that they're being taken onto the Billboard charts now and everything as well. But if you're a songwriter and you've never really done it for the money, you do it because you have these songs inside of you, and this is how you communicate with the world. And I don't know that AI will ever wholly replace that. It doesn't have a human experience to just create out of thin air. It still needs the input to be able to create. So I feel like songwriters are safer now. I think they're becoming even more valuable, and that value will come back where really the value to songwriters and performers, because of the streaming platforms like Spotify, the value has been completely sucked out of the recording industry as a whole and fully extracted. And I think now we have an opportunity to bring that back. Tell us a little bit more about your music mentorship and what you're doing with that. Is it a regular group that's meeting together? And of course, tell us how people can get involved.
Yeah, so I started it June 2022 as trying to gather. Basically, I run lots of songwriting camps. So I go to Spain, or I go to Barbados recently. And I run the songwriting camp. And I've noticed in that the biggest thing about songwriting and co-writing was the connection. So what I've tried to do is put together a mentorship, which is a slow songwriting camp online. Again, because we came out of the COVID years, so online co-writing was, we'd already connected with lots of different countries. So the mentorship basically is 3 months of, we do one night a week teaching, we do one night a week where we're listening to songs, and we do a co-write once a month, which sounds not very many, but when you're online and someone's in Singapore and someone's here and someone's there, it takes a bit longer. So, and what I want them to do is write one song and present it to the group. And if it's good enough, we'll start pitching it because I'm a publisher. If it's not good enough, we'll say, go back and rewrite it or reproduce it. And usually by the end of the 4 co-writes that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, they're delivering really high quality because they know and understand the quality that we need to actually be pitching in the music business. So they have 4 co-writes during the actual 3 months. And then at the end of that, they have a live camp. So they come ready for the songwriting camp. They're all equipped because they've got to know each other on a video. I do a 90-day video journey as well. So it's basically about, we're building a community of people to be with, people to co-write with, people to collaborate with. And at the end, you have the experience of the songwriting camp, which everyone is usually quite magical. And they write amazing songs because they've already connected. The connection for me, again, is always the amazing thing that happens in a co-write. They don't know each other and suddenly they connect to know each other. But I noticed when I was doing the songwriting camp, some of the best connections were over dinner or over breakfast. And actually then if you put those people in a group, great songs come because they've had that discussion of something about their day, something about their life. So you're going into the writing knowing something about each other already.
That's incredible. And I love what you point out there with the connection. And that's what it truly is. And why a place like Nashville is so special. I just got to go to Nashville for my first time in November of 2025. I was covering the Josie Music Awards, an independent awards show. I got to work the red carpet and I got to connect with 150 artists who I interviewed in that time. And now we've gotten to, from that, I had everyone sign an autograph book. It was my guest list, right?
Yeah.
And getting to go back, and several of them gave me their demos or gave me, a USB with some songs or their business card. And then going back and connecting with all of these individuals. And truly, that's what it was about to me. It wasn't necessarily about the award show itself. I live in rural South Dakota, Greig, so I'm not surrounded by art. I need the internet. I need that connection and to have that availability to go and to experience some of these places where artists are gathering. And what I was alluding to is that Nashville is so special because you have such a large pool of songwriters and performers and artists all in one place that are doing that are connecting with one another. And that's where you really get the great songs from.
Yeah. So I've often found that traveling and going somewhere is also a key. You're coming out of your comfort zone, not just for the songwriting, but connecting. I mean, I have so many stories of when I went somewhere to do a job and I bumped into someone else who then led me to the next co-write, which was a big hit. So going and doing stuff that's not necessarily in your own studio, going connecting, I think that really sort of opens doors for songwriters as well.
Yes, and travel was a big part of my life. I mean, it still is. I've done several tours in 2025 all over the country, from the shores of Lake Superior all the way to Austin, Texas, and from Chicago to the Rocky Mountains. I covered a lot of ground this year, and I haven't necessarily taken the time to write about it yet because, well, this is kind of my writing time, right? The winter comes, and in South Dakota, it gets cold and snowy and travel becomes harder and harder. That's my time to kind of sit back in the studio to process the year that was. And for me, I have so much video footage and memories and photos now with, the way that we capture our lives on our cell phones and other ways, that now I can sit back and to process that and to write. And unfortunately for me, I've never had the experience of co-writing. I've never had that experience. Most of my songs have been written in a vacuum of me by myself with my thoughts and my own experiences and refining that. But I look forward to connecting with more people like yourself and people inside of your group and other songwriters around the world to move into this next phase of my own music career. And, I was fortunate enough this year to release a new EP for the first time in 10 years that I've had a batch of works. I've done a few singles, but I would love for you after the show here to have a listen to my songs if you have a few minutes, and I'd love to share a few with you. And we have a daily review show where we play 5 or 6 tracks from independent artists on our YouTube channel as well. We called Unsigned Spotlight. So maybe you can find that next big hit and some more people to help along their journey. Greig, why don't you share with us how everyone can find you and get a hold of you, where they can find your book, which we didn't touch much on, but I'm sure this story kind of encompasses a lot of what's inside of the book as well.
It's all in there, and this story is, it's just all part of it, really. So I can show it on here. It's called Keeping the Dream Alive, and it's basically on Amazon. Get it on Amazon. You can get my name's with an I. You can easily search Greig Watts with an I, because there's not many Greigs with I's. Keeping the Dream Alive on Amazon. It's an audio book. There's a paperback or Kindle. You can get it there. That's the main place it's going. It was a bestseller in October in the songwriting parts of Amazon, which was good. Finding me on our website is www.dwbmusicgroup.com. My company's called DWB. And Facebook, find me on facebook.com, Greig Watts /Greig Watts as well. And I think if you search my name on the internet, because I have an I, which I really hated as a kid, but I don't now. That again, this is in the book. There's a story in the book that I thank my parents now, because as internet search engines weren't around 50 years ago, but they are now, and that I has made all the difference to my career because people can find me. So well done, parents.
Yeah, it's like they knew something, right?
They did. They basically didn't want anyone to call me Gregory, so they thought they'll put an I in, and there was a famous cricketer called Tony Greig, and everyone asked, "Is my name Greig, or is it?" Or called me Gregory. And actually, he even had some teachers insist that my name was Greig. And it's like, I'm 10. I know I'm not called Greig. I'm called Greig. But some teachers, can't teach them anything. So.
Nope, you sure can't. And those same teachers would be amazed to see you now, having made it in the music business for a very long time now, and helping others and teaching them how to do so as well. Greig, this was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate your time from across the pond to jump on with us and impart some wisdom on our audience of songwriters and artists out there. Thank you for that. And thanks for being part of the scene.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been great.